Oh boy. I'm here. Okay, I'm here. I'm not too late. Did I give myself too much to do in too small an amount of time? Of course I did. Since when am I the kind of person to actually plan things appropriately? I am not that kind of person. Hello. I'm just going to close everything else I have on my computer. Does anyone else have like a million tabs open? Like, I never use the same tab twice. I just have like 15,000 tabs open at once. Although I don't have any space around me, so I'm just going to precariously balance my mug like right here. And if I knock it off, I only have myself to blame, is essentially where we're going with this. Oh boy. I did the same thing I do every single month, which is I think I have enough time to do everything that I need to do. And then I come to do the live stream and I realize I don't have as much time as I think. So it's going to be one of those days, same as usual. So many of you are already here. Wow. So many people. It always kind of weirds me out, I'll be honest. Like, I'm not exactly like a people person. So when I see like so many people trying to talk to me, it's like, whoa, people. Lovely waves in your hair, so pretty. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, my hair is being really weird at the minute. It's gotten to the length now where it's annoying. You know, when you have that like existential crisis of like, I really want to like shave my hair off. I've hit like that point because my hair is so long. So the reason I'm slightly late is because I was wrestling to get my hair out of the plaits that I put it in, because I never have my hair out unless I'm on camera. Like every other time my hair is like tightly packed into like 2 plaits, so it's out of my face because it's so annoying. It's so annoying. Okay, right, before I start answering questions, I do this every time. I start answering questions and then I go, hang on, I need to mention something first. Before I start answering questions, I answer everything chronologically. So if you post a question and I am like 5 minutes behind the chat, it's going to take me like 5 minutes till I answer the question. If I'm an hour behind the chat, it's going to take me like an hour to answer the question. I have the hiccups. This is off to a wonderful start. Any question that I've already answered, I've answered many, many times before in other live streams, or that I have a full video on, I will also probably skip over just because I get so many questions. It's kind of overwhelming. You know, when you've got like 500 people sending you messages, it's kind of hard to answer them all. So with that all being said, please be nice, please be kind, please enjoy yourself. And yeah, let's go. So someone said, I just started witchcraft. What should I research first? So when it comes to getting started, I typically recommend that you cover kind of the basic principles. So you cover the practices that go behind the successful spell work and ritual and magical practice. So things like meditation, energy work, energy sensing, centering, grounding, visualization, circle casting, if you choose to do it. These things will then give you a good foundation that you can then build onto. So if you want to go into green witchcraft or kitchen witchcraft, all of the practices typically use the same foundation. It's just different techniques that are used afterwards. I do have a full video on my recommended beginner witchcraft books. I never thought I'd be able to say that. I've spent the last like 20 live streams saying, I'll make that video, and I never did. And now at 24 live streams, I can finally say I have filmed that video. Hey, it's the 24th live stream. Happy 2-year anniversary. Wow, my voice just broke really bad there. That is so strange. I can't believe it's been 2 years. That is like an unnervingly long amount of time, actually, thinking about it. Like, it doesn't feel that long ago. Right, let's go back up. It bounced again. Oftentimes what will happen is the chat will freak out because there's too many messages and it will jump me straight back down to the bottom again. Is quantum physics a part of witchcraft? I mean, I personally don't know much about physics, especially not quantum physics, but I would say that as with most things, you can definitely incorporate it in. So I don't necessarily know the logistics of it, because obviously quantum physics is not really my thing. Physics in general has always kind of confused me, but I'm sure you definitely can. I think with most things you can generally incorporate it in. No, don't shave it. Don't worry, I won't do it. It's like that TikTok of, don't worry, I won't do it. I won't do it. I did it. I'm not going to turn up one day with a shaved head, I promise. But I am thinking of, I don't know, I really like it long, but like it's so annoying. It's driving me insane. Oh. I'll swap you, take my mistake of short hair, and I'll have your too long hair, please. See, that is the mistake I can't afford to make, because when I was at university, I cut my hair up here, like in like a bob, and I hated it. And it's taken too long, like 7 years, 8 years. It's taken too many years to get it to grow out again. So now I'm kind of scared to cut it, because I don't want to make the same mistake of cutting it too short, and I inevitably will. Can you tell us things we need to know about spirits? I think you're probably going to have to specify there, because spirits is a category all of its own. It's a huge category. It's almost, if anything, more of an umbrella term. So you will find people referring to ancestors as spirits, as well as familiars will fall under spirits. The fae fall under spirits. You know, there's so many types of spirit that falls under the category of spirit. You might want to be a little bit more specific there. Can you cleanse charged crystals under the moon even if it's not full? Yes, I see. This is the thing that always, I'm not going to go into a rant, because that's not what I intend to do here. But I always get a little bit confused when people say that you have to charge and cleanse items under the moon. I've seen this happen a lot, especially in the most recent years, but I think people kind of lose the understanding of why they're doing it. So crystals have their natural power. Crystals naturally have a vibrational energy. That's why different stones are used for different things, because they have different vibrational frequencies that you can work with. So that is their natural energy. So you can work with a stone even if it's not been charged under moonlight, which is what most people seem to do with their crystals without really understanding why. To add the extra energy into a stone that relates to a moon phase, you might want to charge that crystal under moonlight. So for instance, if it is a crystal that is for bringing abundance and prosperity or happiness and love, you're going to want to charge it between the waxing and the full moon. And then if you want it to be a stone that is going to be removing things from your life, so a cleansing crystal, for instance, you can charge it during the waning and the new moon. But you don't have to cleanse and charge your crystals in moonlight at all. This is just something I've seen really pushed by social media, especially Instagram. So many people post photos of them putting their crystals out under moonlight. And in some cases, it can actually hinder what you're using the stone for. So you definitely can charge or cleanse crystals at different times of the lunar cycle, depending on what you actually need them for. It jumped. No. Okay. Straight away, I will say as well, please don't repeat questions. If I haven't got to a question, it's because I haven't got to it yet. Repeating the same question many times, it just blocks up the chat, and then it makes it kind of difficult when it jumps. Right. I don't know where I was again, because it bounced. What's a god that you will never work with? I don't know, because I only work with Ceridwen and Bridget. They're the only two deities that I work with. I have in the past worked with Nyx and Poseidon. There's no deities that I would necessarily not work with. There's deities that I find myself feeling a little uncomfortable around. So for instance, I know a lot of people work with Hecate, and Hecate scares the living daylights out of me. Always has. I don't really know why. I think it's a lot of power. It reminds me, I don't know how to describe it, but the energy of Hecate kind of reminds me a little bit of chaos. there is so much power in there, and it is organized, but it's also very chaotic, and that kind of scares me. So I don't know if I'd necessarily work with Hecate, but then again, things change. You know, right now I might feel that way, but then like 10 years ago, I said that I would probably never work with deities, and now look where we are. So things definitely change. What's your power animal? I don't know. It's never something I've really thought about. Never something that I've really looked into either. I'm curious about the other world. I understand one must enter. Do you just drum and chant and wait? What happens? Or do you create the world? How do you know that the experience is real? So the other world is not a mental creation. The other world is a spiritual plane. So the drumming is designed to drop you into a trance. That's what the drumming is. So the drumming by itself is going to do nothing. The drumming is designed to drop your subconscious into a trance. Usually it's by lowering the heart rate, especially when you utilize drums or binaural beats. The body almost naturally attunes itself to the rhythm of the thing that's happening around it. And so you'll often use drumming and binaural beats to drop you into a trance state, which can assist during journey work and trance work. So it's very difficult to tell to start off with whether the world is real or not, because a lot of people will like imagine it in their mind. But I think when you've witnessed and experienced astral work, you can tell the difference. There is a very stark difference between, okay, this is in my head versus this is outside of myself. Because if it's all in your head, then you will only be able to experience things that you yourself have experienced or things that you yourself have seen. But when you are traveling to the other world, it is very much a case of you see and experience things that you would have no comprehension of, and therefore your mind can't create something it's never witnessed or experienced. It can splice together things that have already happened, but something that is completely out of anything you've ever witnessed before, your mind can't think it up. So that's how a lot of people draw the line a little bit. What if you don't have any books to read spells? You do not need to use spells out of books. You can create your own spells. If anything, I would say you're much better creating your own spells than you are to take one out of a book, because by creating the spell, you understand the importance of every single component. You know why you're using it, you know how to use it, and you're able to put together a working that suits what you need to happen. Whereas I find a lot of copy and paste spells that you find in spell books, they use generic items that maybe you don't have access to, you're in the wrong country for, and they're usually very generic outcomes. Whereas with a spell that you create yourself, you can completely tailor it to suit your situation. Do you consider yourself a green witch, and what's most important in green witchery? No, I'm a hearth witch, hence the username. And most important in green witchery, I'd say, is a respect for nature. I think green witchcraft is very difficult to practice if you don't respect the natural world. And I have met a few people that do not respect the natural world and practice green witchcraft, and they have a quite difficult time doing it, because to really attune yourself with nature in the way that green witches do, it's very difficult if you simultaneously have no respect for it. Other than that, there isn't really anything that is the most important thing within green witchcraft. It's just a case of finding a path that suits you and also the environment around you. I think it's about taking into consideration the time and place and the land that's around you, because that's all what we're closest associated with. You know, I think a lot of people will think of bigger things, bigger places, when really the land that we are on, I think we need to have respect for, and I think that's really important when it comes to green witchcraft. When visualizing, are you supposed to see yourself in front of you, like watching a movie, or in first person? Well, there is no supposed to. Visualization is just imagination. That's all it is. It's just a different word for the same thing. So in your imagination, I can be in like a first person video game, or I can be watching myself, or you can be seeing yourself like over your own shoulder. The different people are going to visualize in different ways depending on how they experience the world. You'll find that some people will see through their own eyes. Other people will see a scenario from a third person perspective. And oftentimes it's entirely dependent on the way a person thinks. There's no one correct way when it comes to visualization. It's just finding a technique that works best for you. Any plans for the spring equinox? Try not to cry. No, not really. I am just trying to get through because the UK is still in lockdown. Essentially, we have been since Christmas. And my goal is to just maybe go on a walk. I'm not giving myself like these huge, intricate things, like celebrations like I used to. Like I used to set up an altar every single year. But I'm finding that this year, and last year actually, because I'm inside all of the time, I'm actually finding it quite difficult because I don't really get to experience the natural world like I did in previous years. You know, I can't just go to a national park and just experience nature because we can't leave the area. So I'm not giving myself anything crazy. I just want to go on a walk and maybe not cry and maybe drink some tea. And that sounds like a good equinox to me. Is it possible to put out a candle in memory of a loved one on an altar, anointed with herbs and oils for the past loved one? I don't want to communicate due to their belief, just a candle in memory. Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, 100%. People do it all the time of all manner of different religions and spiritualities. The act of light is often a gift. And I think that largely comes from, you know, our own history in the world. I think light during darkness, warmth during cold was considered very much a gift. And to this day, most cultures, I'd say, as far as I'm aware, most cultures do utilize fire, especially in memoriam and for respect. So I don't see that there's any problem with that at all. How did you start out on which platform? How did I start out as in my work online or within witchcraft? Because very different. When it comes to social media, I first had an account on Tumblr. I used to write articles and post them on Tumblr. And then I switched to YouTube in 2018. The Tumblr is still there. It's just sitting there. And I don't think I've posted anything on it in months and months and months. What do you do on days you just feel bad about yourself? I honestly, I'm not going to be the best person to ask for that. Oh, I do apologize. My phone is all the way across the room and I forgot to put it on silent. So that is going to get real annoying. I think everyone has days when they feel like that. And I think it's having that realization. I had this realization this year of we pick ourselves apart so much. You know, we pick every little problem and insecurity that we have and we make it seem as though everyone else, that's all anyone else is able to focus on. But this year I've kind of discovered that no one really notices. Like realistically, no one pays attention to the flaws that we see within ourselves. We are always going to be our most critical person. And so I'm not the best to ask about what to do when you don't feel good about yourself, but I always remind myself of that. Like for instance, today I woke up with this on my face, this ginormous mountain, and I was like, damn, everyone's going to notice it. Everyone's going to see it. Everyone's going to see it. And then I realized, you know what? I don't really care that much because at the end of the day, we have so many things going on in our lives that if anyone is going to focus so heavily on one thing about you, then they have so many of their own insecurities to deal with. And that kind of helps me. I know that's kind of a backwards way of thinking, like I feel better about myself because other people have problems too. But for me, I find it makes me feel a bit better when I realize that, you know, everyone else probably feels exactly the same way as well. And everyone is just trying to feel better about themselves. And that kind of makes me feel a little less alone with it. I don't know if that helps. I have a tendency just to waffle, but that's what I do. Can spirits harm you physically? Yes. Will they want to? Probably not. More often than not, a spirit isn't going to care enough about you to cause you physical harm. So bonus. But they can do if they want to. It depends on the type of spirit that it is and its connection to the physical world. Do you ever feel disconnected from your magic? I've got really bad hiccups, by golly. And what do you personally do to get reconnected with it? So I don't really have a choice because my work is my job. I can never truly feel disconnected from it. However, I do find that with my personal practice, I do tend to go through phases. And the way I get back into it is I spend time in nature. I find that the biggest thing that I enjoy about magical practice is how it allows me to connect closer to the world around me. And so being inside for so long, being stuck at a desk, I kind of lose that a little bit. And, when you've been editing for 15 hours and you're just like, I don't want to do a ritual tonight. I just don't want to do it. I might spend some time out in nature, and I find that going to places that are sacred, not necessarily sacred by religious standing, but sacred to me, woodland, bogs, marsh, just wildland somewhere, even if it's just a park that's quiet, that allows me to kind of reconnect with time and place. And I find that really helps me. The other thing that really helps me is music. I just have to listen to Damn the Bard, or if you like kind of Celtic pagan music, there's a playlist on YouTube called Keep Music Pagan. I think that's what the YouTube channel is called. And they have just a whole bunch of songs, and I will listen to that while I'm like cleaning or just sitting calmly, which is very rare for me. Or I will find something new to read. So if I feel a little bit disenchanted with whatever it is I'm currently reading, I'll find a brand new topic that I've never read before. And then I become obsessed with things. I can't just like something. I become obsessed with it, and I will just be hooked on that topic, and I'll then read like 15 books and then I'll be fine again. So that's how I typically do it. But obviously other people are going to be in different places because I do work in this industry. I kind of can't be disenchanted with it for too long because it is my job. Can I say that angels and spirits are the same? I think some people would definitely consider angels to be part of the spirit category. I think it depends on religious belief. I know that some people consider angels to be different than spirits, especially if they are of a more Christian tradition or more traditional Christian tradition, whereas I find a lot of people do consider angels to be spirits as well. I think that really all depends on a personal, like where you draw the line. I personally would consider angels spirits, but then I'm not exactly a Christian person, so I don't really know where that line would fall if you were more traditional. I feel like I'm waffling. I hope you get what I mean. Is the modern term witch based on the concept people had in medieval times and accused people for, or is there another origin? Because shaman didn't call themselves witches, right? Yeah, shamanism and witchcraft are two very different things. So witches practice witchcraft, and it's a tradition that can be, noticed hundreds upon hundreds of years in history. So witches practice witchcraft. There are many, many other magical traditions around the world that refer to themselves as different terms because they practice something different. So witches are similar to those that were tried during the witch trials, although I think it's really important to acknowledge that most people that were tried for witchcraft were actually not practicing witches at all. It's going to get really annoying. I do apologize. So it's often the European traditions of magical practice are considered witchcraft, and the practitioners of those traditions are called witches. So those that practice shamanism don't typically refer to themselves as witches because what they practice isn't witchcraft, although how a person chooses to identify is going to be entirely personal. And so you might find people of other traditions referring to themselves as witches, but that is entirely up to them, if that makes sense. So I can't tell someone how to identify. If they want to identify as a witch, then they can do that. But typically it is people who practice witchcraft. Do I need to recharge sigils? I have 2 hidden in my phone case for protection while traveling around daily. It's been a while since I made them, months. I'd say it really depends on how you create a sigil. So most people charge a sigil by destroying it, in which case to recreate, to re-energize that working, you're going to have to recreate the sigil. If you have put the energy into the sigil during creation, I would recommend recharging it again, or simply recreating that sigil and putting energy into it as you're drawing it and then storing it. I'd say typically sigils will last days to weeks, typically, depending on the type of energy that goes into it. So I would say every few weeks, change out the sigil, switch it for a new one that has been newly energized, or energize them by destroying them and do it that way. Can Pokemon be used in spellwork and witchcraft? I mean, I guess in a way. There's a whole category of witchcraft called pop culture witchcraft, which allows people to draw on modern culture that is found in media and add the aspects of that into spellwork. So in theory, you could, for instance, create a thought form that you mentally visualize as being a Pokemon and utilizing the abilities of the Pokemon and kind of adding that into the thought form. I don't know if this is describing it accurately, but upon creating a thought form, it's essentially living energy. And so because of that, you can create it in a form that is going to be comfortable to you. So if you want to work with, if you feel that this particular Pokemon could be really good actually as an energy worker, you can then almost manifest that in the form of a temporary thought form and use it that way. And that's how a lot of people incorporate aspects of things like Digimon and Pokemon into their pop culture magic, if that's something you're interested in. Will you be able to manifest a Pokemon right in front of you? No. Would I really like an Eevee? Obviously, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. So I think it's very much a case of you can definitely incorporate aspects of the practice in to pop culture magic, but it's never going to be, you know, the same as it is in the actual pop culture that you're drawing it from. I don't know if you can actually hear the beeping, but that is someone on my website. My phone beeps, and that is going to get infuriating because the mystery box is going live tomorrow. And so I get a lot of people coming on the website to see if I've posted it early. So that is going to be beeping for the entire time we're here, which is super fun. I don't know where I was. I bounced all the way down. And I don't know where I was. Ah, here we are. I found it. For someone asking, this throw behind me is from Killstar. It's going to get annoying. I'm going to have to turn that off in a minute if he keeps doing it. I think it's called a Zodiac blanket, but it's just one of the circular blankets off the Killstar website. Is it good to keep tarot in a wooden box with sodalite? I mean, I don't see any harm in it. I would say if you are going to keep it in a wooden box, just make sure that there's a cloth around the cards so they don't get damaged. And then if sodalite is a stone that you find particularly helps with your divination readings, I don't see any reason why you can't keep it with it. I have a cat but want to burn incense. What are your recommendations? I don't. If you're going to burn incense, I would recommend thoroughly doing your research on the way it can interact with your animal. Talk to your local vet, see if it is safe. If it's not safe, the health of the cat is going to come first, in which case it might be a case of burning it in a set room where your cat isn't allowed and then using a lot of ventilation to, to get the smoke out. But if it's going to put an animal at risk, I would say just don't risk it. It's not worth it. What are the most interesting books you've read about witchcraft? For me, I really enjoy older books. And by older, I mean, I enjoy accounts of witchcraft in like the 16th, 17th, 1800s. I love the accounts of practice around that time. And when I was doing research on the Fae about 12 years ago now, wow, bloody hell, some of the first books that I got were on kind of first-hand and second-hand accounts. And they were written in like the 1800s, and they are just fascinating. I absolutely love them. They're probably the most interesting things. And then I enjoy incorporating those folk practices into modern practices and kind of blending the two together. That is like my thing. But unfortunately, most books today are very modern in their stance. So that's why I really enjoy the older books. How often do you give your deities offerings? I don't. I have an agreement with my deities where I will give offerings only when I need assistance. And that way it's kind of like a like for like. So I spent a long time just kind of interacting with them regularly. But now we've kind of got to that point where if I need Ceridwen's help, I will light the candle that's sitting on her altar, and like within the day, my entire life will have turned upside down, because that is what Ceridwen does. Really likes kind of transformation, turning your life upside down, and in the end, you come out better for it. But during it, it's not very fun. So that's how I typically work it. Everyone is going to have a different relationship with their deities, and so it's going to be done differently. What is this? Oh, thank you so much, Valerie. Thank you. Oh, you guys are so sweet. Is it going to jump? Does the list of deities ever end? I suppose that depends. There are obviously a finite number of spiritualities and religions. And so theoretically, there will always be a perceived end to the list of deities. However, as we're discovering new societies throughout history, and we're finding new statues of deities that we didn't know before, the list is going to ever be extending. And in the future, people are going to have their own deities. You know, they're going to be creating them just like the Romans did and just like the Celts did. So I think there is, in theory, an end to the number of deities that there is, but there can always be more, because God forms do exist. You know, the collective consciousness of thousands upon thousands of people has the ability to create a thought form large enough to essentially become a God form, which is just an entire concept in itself, which is just truly fascinating. So in theory, there is an end. Whether we will ever find it, though, is a different matter. What do you believe this means? Your power is in your dark side. I don't really know. I think you can get super technical with it and be like, well, if you're unable to fully experience yourself because you shut half of you off, you are never going to have access to your entire power, because you're always trying to close that door and keep it closed, which is why shadow work is so important. A lot of people within magical practice will undertake shadow work, which is essentially the processing of negative events, negative processes, negative memories that have come before that directly impact and influence the way we behave in our modern lives. And by undertaking shadow work, by entering into our darkest selves and by processing those negatives, we then have less darkness to shut out, and we are a more whole person. And so we are able to utilize our energy better, because we aren't trying constantly to push things back in our minds that we don't want to think about. And maybe that is something to do with it, because I think a lot of people do have a tendency to do that. Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you. My voice literally goes up an octave when I say thank you, because I'm really bad at saying thank you to people. Can you work with demons and angels at the same time? I don't personally, but that's because I don't purposefully work with either of them. But I don't see any reason why you couldn't. I think it would just be important to keep arrangements separate, perhaps, but then that is entirely going to depend on the individuals of each group that you're going to work with. I know that there's a difference between cleansing and charging, so you can cleanse stuff with moonlight. So what a lot of people will do is they will energize items during the full moon, and they will cleanse them during the new moon, and they will use that energy. So the full moon energy is very abundant, it's very powerful. The new moon energy is very removing, and so people will cleanse with the new moon and they will charge with the full moon. I personally am just going to stick to cleansing and charging items as I need them. I am not organized enough to plan ahead, and also that just seems easier for me. What is this? Oh, thank you so much, Angela. You guys are genuinely probably the nicest group of people I've ever met. So thank you so much, Angela. I really, really appreciate it. Oh, is magic and witchcraft the same? No. Witchcraft is a craft. It's a practice. Magic is the result of working. So it's an energy. So lots of societies around the world will work with energy, and the manifestation of a physical result is often considered magic. It's a magical result. However, not all practices are going to call themselves witchcraft. So witchcraft is just one technique that brings about a magical change, which can create a magical result in the physical world. And so lots of different cultures work with the same energy. which is often referred to as magic more in Western culture, but witchcraft and magic are not the same thing. So it's magical practice, but it isn't in itself magic, if that makes sense. Is there such a thing as a techno-pagan? I'm pretty certain there is, yeah. There's most kind of crossovers that you can have. There are probably people that are. Is there a way to know that you're an empath? How to protect yourself if you are? It's very hard to not notice if you're an empath. Let's put it that way. You will often notice that if you are in public areas, if you are around a lot of people, you will feel overwhelmed. You're emotionally out of control. You become very emotionally unstable if you aren't able to control the way you express emotions. And then when you are by yourself, you realize that oh, wait, now I have one emotion instead of 500. What happened to the other 500? So I'd say most people that are empaths will instinctively know that they are different because of the way they experience interactions with other people. To protect yourself, shielding is key. So essentially, you create a bubble around yourself of energy that stops everyone else's energy from interfering with your own, which allows you to focus just on yourself instead of on like the 500 people that are in an office around you. Oh, thank you so much. I would say this name, but I know that I am going to mess it up. I can't say that. I apologize for not being able to say your username, but thank you so, so much. I need to learn to get better at pronunciation. That is what I need to do. I'm pretty certain that people can imagine. Wait, I'm pretty certain people can imagine new things all the time, like a dragon, bear, wolf thing. See, the thing when it comes to imagination is that you can change and alter the things you've already seen. It's a bit like how you can't imagine a new color. Like, think about it. You can't imagine a new color because your entire basis of how you base your imagination off is experiences. So you can splice together animals. So like you've seen a bear and you've seen a seal. So you can stick a bear head on a seal's body and you can imagine that in your head because you've seen the two. You know, you can put, this is where, you know, things like unicorns. So you've seen a rhino and you've seen a horse. So you can take the horn of a rhino and put it on a horse's head. But to create something like an entire universe with color that you've never experienced before as a human, that is then beyond something that you can ever imagine for yourself, because all of our inspiration comes from things we've already experienced, which is why so many authors read a lot of books and so many producers watch a lot of movies, because it allows us to develop a much broader foundation of things that we can then fuel our imagination with. And I think that's really where you draw the line with like astral work and spirit work, is when you've experienced something that you have no way to explain or describe because you have never witnessed or experienced anything like it ever, then you can kind of draw the line because your mind has to base something off something else. And if there's nothing to base it on, your mind can't create it. If that makes sense. What is a chaotic witch? A chaotic witch is someone who practices chaos magic, which is like its whole very complex branch of witchcraft that I will have to talk about at some point, because damn, that is it's a whole thing. What is the difference between Avalon and the spirit world and the spirit world, all spirit worlds in general? So when it comes to the especially the beliefs that are seen within the Isle of Avalon, largely the beliefs that have come out of King Arthur and Welsh mythology, it's largely the other world. So it's referred to as the other world, which in other cultures around the world is called, you know, the spirit world or the other planes of existence. So the belief with the other world when it comes to the Avalon idea is that the other world is split within multiple different sections, and that to go from one section to another, you have to pass through it, which is why I'm trying to remember the place name. There is a specific place in Welsh mythology where you travel into the spirit plane of the other world, and then you reach the Isle of the Dead by going through the spirit world. So essentially, it's just a different name for the same thing. You'll find when you study different cultures and different practices from around the world, the basis of them is almost always the same. They will usually just have different names for different things. So what is seen in the Avalon tradition as the other world is often seen as the spirit world in other cultures. When you have lipstick on, itching your lip just becomes like a dangerous task. Like any moment I could ruin it all. Do you usually find you work with one spell for a certain type of work over and over? Example, protection of house. Is it one you would also use for protection of your body? I create unique spells for everything that I'm doing. So usually I won't even use the same spell twice, which is why I very rarely, unless it's a folk charm that say someone else has given me, if I'm creating my own spells, I will very rarely actually write them down because there's no point. I won't use it again. So I will use different spells for different things. So I've got the hiccups again. So if I was going to be doing a protection charm, I would want that to be a very long-term working, usually one that I would place within the home. And so for me, I would use a very different working for a personal protection, because a personal protection is going to be something that I want to wear. It's going to be something that I can carry around with me, something small. Whereas a house protection might be something big, something weighty that's difficult to move and disturb. So I use completely different workings for the two different things, but that is just the way I do it. I find I just create spells as I need them. And so I never really bother remembering them or repeating them because I'm never going to use it again. So for me, I don't really see the point. Have you watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Yes, I have. I think most people have, I think. At least most people my age have, because Buffy was like everything. I still hate the ending though. I still hate it. I actually can't watch it. I get to like, how many seasons is there again? Golly, there's a lot. I think I get to the end of like season 4 and I have to just call it. Like I can't watch past that point anymore. I've done it too many times. I've lost where I was again. That's why I've gone all quiet. I do apologize. I do this all the time. I've realized I can't read and talk at the same time. And that makes it really difficult. Do you ever find a crystal that you couldn't get a connection with or that makes you feel uncomfortable? I know someone who gets a migraine if they hold hematite for a while. Yes, 100%. I've forgotten which stone it is because I don't have any of it because I refuse to buy it. There's one stone where the moment I hold it, I get a headache. I can't connect with basically any agate. I know Americans say agate. I've always said agate, so we're just gonna have to deal with me saying agate. I've never been able to connect with it ever. To me, every time I pick up an agate, it just feels dead. Like I can't feel anything from it. Whereas there are some stones where I pick it up and like I'm like, oh wow, my arm is buzzing. Why is my arm buzzing? Should my arm be buzzing? So agate is one I can't use. Well, I can use it, but I never really get good results from working with it because I don't connect with it at all. And there are some stones that I can't really use because they make me feel terrible, like really bad. I know a lot of people who experience that with moldavite. I personally don't experience that with moldavite, but a lot of people with moldavite, it gives them a really bad headache, like really, really bad. So there definitely are stones out there. So if you experience a stone that you just can't feel anything from, it's not necessarily you. Sometimes it is just the stone. Like if I pick up an agate, I can't feel anything. It's literally, I could be picking up a piece of plastic. That's kind of what it feels like to me. Is it acceptable to keep remaining items from spellwork in a jar in your home, or does it depend on the type of spell, how you dispose of it? It entirely depends. So for instance, if you are doing a banishing spell, you're not going to want to keep those items in your home. If you are doing a spell that has more of a negative association, you're not going to want to keep those items. If you're doing a working to cleanse, you're also not going to want to keep those items, because by keeping the items, you are almost undoing your own cleansing because you are keeping it around. Whereas if you've done a spell to bring abundance into your life, you can then keep items that will help manifest positive things, and you can then use them in other workings to amplify the energy. So it really depends on the type of working that has been used in as to whether or not you want to keep it or whether you want to get rid of it. Can you do a video about enchanting jewelry? I definitely can. Definitely. Because I do that a lot, actually, and I never really thought of doing a video on it. I think it's because it's quite difficult to film, because I use mirror, and it gets kind of difficult to film a mirror because you can see how messy my house is. So I think I need to find a different way of doing that. And yes. Is there a book on witchcraft that you absolutely hate or think is or you think has really bad advice? Oh boy, there are so many. There are an unbelievable amount of books where I have opened them. I have read maybe 4 pages and I'm already angry. And some of those books I do finish. Some of them I can't even sit through. There are some books that I actually refuse to get. I read the book that someone else had because I myself didn't want to support the person because I hate their work that much. Am I going to give you names? No, because that is the quickest way to get sued. But let's put it this way. If there's a super popular beginner book by a super popular author and I never, ever mention them or talk about them or recommend them, it's probably a sure sign that I don't like the work. If I like a book, I will very openly talk about it. But if I do not at all like that work, you will never see me recommending it to anyone or talking about it just at all, because I will not have anything nice to say about it. Thank you so much, Temperance. Thank you. You guys are so nice today. If you don't have things like clothes or hair or anything to, I think this is altered the words a little bit, which makes it hard. Apart from names and birthdays, will feel like text messages work on your phone providers? Wait, I don't understand that one. I can't understand the wording of that one. I really apologize. Cheese Queen. I love your name, by the way. Cheese Queen, Lord of the Cheese. That's a great name. Do you believe in dragons? I do believe in dragons. I don't personally work with them, but I do consider them exceptionally powerful spirits. And that's one of the reasons why I don't work with them, is that they kind of intimidate me a lot. So I just don't. Have you come across any type of people that just can't do a spell, or is it just a matter of learning? I have met people where it doesn't matter how much learning they have done, they can never manifest anything. And I think it's important to remember that anyone can learn witchcraft, but there is definitely a level of ability. You know, it's a bit like how I'm terrible at maths, for instance. I could sit through hundreds and hundreds of hours of maths lessons. But does that mean I'm going to be much better at maths without any of that advice around me? No, I'd still probably be just as bad at maths as I am now. And I think there are some people that sabotage themselves. And I think that's largely what happens. I have met people who have been studying for years and years and years, and they've never managed to successfully manifest anything. And they've got to the point where they're like they're literally shitting on the magical community, being like, this is nonsense, this is bullshit. When the reality is that they're more likely than not self-sabotaging. They are often the kind of people who doubt everything that they do, who want instantaneous results, who aren't necessarily willing to put the energy into the workings that they're doing. So you will find that there are people who can't manifest, but it's if they change something that they were doing, they probably could. It's very much a case of figuring out what's hindering you and then going forwards. Although I'm sure that there are, you know, a few people out there who simply can't manifest anything. Like no matter what they try, they just can't do it. And I'm sure people do exist like that. How are you today, Hearth? I am good. I am cold. I turned my heater off and now I'm cold. What are you studying in terms of witchcraft at the moment? I'm not. I am taking a break from learning a little bit, not like a huge amount, just like a little bit. I just like a couple weeks ago finished all of the beginner witchcraft books that I wanted to read, and I am so fed up of reading that I'm not learning anything right now. I'm focusing on work, and I just completely blanked then. And I'll get back into something recently. I've got some books on water magic that I need to read. I've got a book on sea witchcraft that I want to read to see if I like it, because I get asked a lot about my sea witchcraft practice from a few years ago, many years ago. And yes, there's things I want to read and there's things I'm set up to study. But right now I just need to chill and not read and play Genshin Impact and work. And do those things instead. Oh. It's gonna jump. It's gonna jump. God damn it. I knew it. The entire chat freezes. And then it's like that warning sign of like, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen here. It is going to jump so bad. And now I don't know where I was. So let's, okay, here we go. I think I was about here. I see a low purple heart and I think I was here. Do you believe in casting spells and letting them go, i.e. not stressing or thinking about it, or does it not matter? It definitely matters. But I think a lot of people put too much emphasis on that and don't think about it. Don't even think about it ever again, because how are you meant to do that? Like, if I've done that spell, I then have to clean up the supplies. Am I just meant to like block out the last half an hour of my life and not think of, oh, I should have used this. Oh, why didn't I use that? Like, the human mind can't just, we aren't built to just forget that something has ever happened. This is why we have what I like to refer to as 3 a.m. thoughts. You know, when you're lying in bed and you go, oh, why did I do that 10 years ago? That's what our minds naturally do. So when it comes to spell work, I will never think about spell work and go, oh, that's not going to work. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I needed this instead. Oh, why didn't I think of that? Instead, I think of spell work and go, I can't wait for this to manifest. And every time I think of a spell work, that is what I am thinking of. I am thinking of I put a lot of energy into that. I did a good job with that. When will this manifest? This is going to turn out good. I think the negative and the problematic point is if you are thinking and you're self-doubting. I think that's what a lot of people need to avoid. It's that self-doubt. And then there's also a lot of spell work that I do that's long-term. So if I'm doing a jar working or a bottle working, or I am using a poppet, they're long-term workings. And so I'm going to have to think about that spell in a week, in a month, 2 months, because I need to keep putting the energy into it. So I think the approach of let it go is good, but I think it always needs a bit more clarification, because I think a lot of people struggle with the idea that you have to never think about that working ever again. And the reason why it's so difficult is because we aren't meant to never think of things. You know, our memories are set up in such a way that we do think of things that we've done. So it's all about self-doubt and to stop the self-doubt as much as possible. It jumped again. Oh, what is this? Oh, thank you so much, Samantha. Thank you. What do you sell on your website and what is it? It's a witchcraft supply store. We specialize in beeswax spell candles, like shaped beeswax candles. The link to my store is always in the description box, but we only ship to the UK and Europe. So if you're outside of that, I do apologize, but the problem is that things just don't get there safely. We've done tests on this and things just break. And I never want anything arriving broken. So that is what we do on the website. And I'm hiccuping again now. And that is another person on the website. Have you ever read the worst witch books? I have, actually. I read them when I was a kid and absolutely loved them. Absolutely loved them. Did it inspire me to practice witchcraft? Probably not. But I really enjoy the style of those books. I always have. And the original Worst Witch TV show, I think it was 98? I think it might have been 98. I don't know, but the original Worst Witch TV show, I watched that as well. I'm doing it again where I just went completely silent. It's so hard to talk while you're reading. What happens to you when you accept gifts from the Fae? Maybe nothing. Maybe nothing. Maybe something. It's not like A plus B equals C, because the problem is that it depends on who has given you that gift. What type of Fae are they? Are they a nice person or Fae? Are they not a nice individual? Do they have your best intentions at heart? Do you have respect for them? Do they have respect for you? Do you already have that relationship? Have you spent years interacting with each other? Have you connected with them, you know, for many weeks, months, years, decades? Or have you never met them before? It's a bit like getting a gift from a complete stranger on the street. You know, you never quite know what's going to be in it. You might need to be really cautious of it. But equally, if you're getting a gift from your best friend, you can be a little bit less cautious of it. So the reason people don't like gifts from the Fae is because taking a gift is often, it's the idea that you then have to give something back. And so that then ties you into a contract that you might not want to be in. And also it might be quite harmful. But then again, it entirely depends on the Fae that you're interacting with. And thank you so much, Ariel? That is a really beautiful name. I am terrible at pronouncing it, but thank you so much. And please let me know which way round it is. Is it Ariel or is it Ariel? That's such a cool name. Like, damn. I love names. I don't know. I also love finding out what someone's name means. I think that is really cool as well. What do you think about the left-hand path? Is it good or bad? I don't believe that anything on earth is pure good or pure bad. And so the left-hand path exists, just like the right-hand path exists. I have no severely negative or severely positive thoughts on the subject because they're just there. They're just there. I'm not the kind of person to have any really, really strong opinions on something, especially not something like this. It's just another tradition that people often use. Do you have any research topics you read for fun, not trying to improve your craft? Science. Science. I absolutely fascinated with natural biology. I always have been. It's what I did my education in, was natural biology. And so I will still watch documentaries. I will still read scientific papers. I will still read journals. I will still do any research I possibly can, especially on aquatic biology. I've just always been fascinated with it. And I actually rarely have time to research it. So if I'm not researching the witchcraft stuff, that is typically what I'm reading because it's just so cool. I'll never understand people that get weirded out by the ocean because that place is just like so cool to me. What's your hair care routine? As though I have one. I wash my hair with the cheapest shampoo that money can buy. It's Alberto Balsam and it's £1 from Boots. I condition it with the cheapest conditioner shampoo money can buy, which is Alberto Balsam, £1 from Boots. And then I brush it and I don't use any heat on it. I don't even use like a blow dryer, like a hair dryer. I put it in 2 plaits and I let it dry. And then when I film, I take it out and it looks like this. I am genuinely like such a low maintenance person. Like I don't have like 1,000 hair care products. I have like shampoo and conditioner. And that's literally it. What does the star on your wall mean? It's just a star. It's just a pentagram shelf that I got. It's actually a damaged stock piece. So I didn't get it for any particular meaning. I got it, one, because you can't even see it. Where's my necklace? My necklace is here somewhere. I just don't know where it is. So it's a pentagram, just a 5-pointed star, which is used a lot within magical practice. But realistically, I kept it because it was damaged and I was selling them at markets. And that is why it's there. Can I work with Cupid? Does Cupid want to work with you? It's probably the more appropriate question, I suppose. I mean, you can reach out to any deity as long as that path is open to you. But whether a deity is going to reach back to you is another matter. There are lots of people who try for years and years to connect with a deity, and it may ultimately never work because that deity has no interest in working with you back. I do cards and see stuff that happens 1 or 2 days later. Does that make me psychic? It sounds like premonitions, especially when it comes to psychic abilities. Premonitions do fall under that category. So I'd say it probably means that you have a specific heightened psychic ability, like a psychic sense. So much like how some people are able to hear spirits or experience spirits, some people are able to have premonitions. So whether that's precognitive dreams, where you actually dream of something that happens in advance, or a lot of people, myself included, I get a whole lot of deja vu, but it's not like deja vu for places. It's deja vu for things that have happened because I already knew it was going to happen before it happened. So they kind of all fall under the kind of psychic umbrella. How can I know that my spell works? When it manifests? It depends on the kind of spell that you're doing. More often than not, the best way to know if a spell has worked is if you see physical results. You can also do divination on the subject, but I would say if you repeatedly do divination to see if your spell has worked, that is going to count as doubting your spell, which can negatively influence it. But typically the best way that you can see if a spell work is working is when it manifests. How do you connect with a deity if meditation doesn't work? So meditation is definitely not the only way. Different deities will communicate with you in different forms. Some deities will come to you in dreams. Sometimes it will be in your day-to-day life. Sometimes it will be in trance-like states. Other times it will be in journeying or astral projection. Some spirits or deities will come to you during meditation, but definitely not all of them. And some will show you signs and come to you just in day-to-day life. So it very much depends on the deity, and it's worth checking up on the mythology of each deity because some are more likely to come through in one way than another. Can you charge a candle with a different intent if it's been used for another magical purpose? What kind of candle magic are you doing? Are you using the candle as a vessel or are you using it as a tool? Because if the candle is a vessel and it's filled with energy in advance and then you are burning it down, you need to burn it all the way down to release that energy. If you are using the candle as a tool to direct your energy to manifest through the flame, and you aren't necessarily charging the vessel, filling the candle full of energy, then you can cleanse the candle and reuse it again. But if the candle is full of energy from a previous working that has been unreleased, by adding that energy that's already in the candle into a current working, you are destroying the first working and altering the second working because there's still energy in that candle. I have a full video on the 2 different kinds of candle magic that are most common. It's true that there's limits on the astral plane where the soul could travel. Is it really dangerous to travel accidentally far? I think a lot of people are scared they will float off during astral travel. Spirits. But as far as I know, no chance of you ever going too far. The likelihood of you in time too far is also quite minimal as well, because with how easy it is to snap back for a lot of people, you're more going to be snapped back before you ever get too far. How long can moon water be kept? Can you extend the shelf life of moon water with alcohol? No. Alcohol and water don't mix. So put alcohol in is you are going to have a layer of water on top of alcohol, or alcohol on top of water. Whichever one is dense, I don't know off the top. The bacteria that is present in that water, and unless you're using distilled water, life in that water, all that's going to happen is the longer that there is in that water, and ultimately you're just going to end up with rancid water. So 3 days I typically would use moon water for. I wouldn't really use it for much longer than that. If you want to use the energy of the moon during other moon phases, there's other things you can do. You can charge a crystal with the energy of that moon phase. You can charge items and tools, and then you can remove that energy at a later point and add it into that working. So if you wanted full moon water and you wanted to use it on the waning moon, you can use the energy that you've put into another object instead of water, because the water will probably be rancid by the time you get around to doing the Do you have a familiar? No, at the moment I don't have a familiar. I possibly might do in the future, but at the moment I am not working with one, no. Oh no. We'll have to see if this gets any better. If it's lagging that bad, I might have to start the let's see. How bad is it lagging? We'll have to just see if this gets any worse. I'm literally losing people. I'm and it doesn't work. Is this any better? I don't know what to do besides just ending the stream and restarting it again, but that never works. I've done this so many times.